Hi, I'm Dr. Gaby Cora at the National Publicity Summit with Kathryn Gruhn. Kathryn, welcome. How are you?
I am fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So excited.
Oh my goodness, I have the experience that anyone would wish for. I'm a speech pathologist and I study communication disorders. And I just had the situation speaking to ABC News, and my cinch was, I just polled everybody here at the National Publicity Summit, who has ever heard of a speech pathologist on the news talking about communication disorders? No one raised their hand. Now, can you imagine, could we do our job? Could you do your job? No, we have to communicate. And so it's such an important, very important situation. And I deal with children anywhere from birth, because they have sucking issues, all the way to adults that need hearing aids or dementia. And so it covers that whole broad area of language, hearing, cognitive ability, and physical ability to be able to move, to be able to make gestures or sign language.
So let's start from the beginning. What are the most common reasons why parents approach you or teachers approach you, particularly with the younger kids?
Okay, the first thing, every parent has this gut feeling something's not right. And what's always told by the pediatrician, he will outgrow it. Don't worry about it. Well, that's true for 10% of those children. But 20% of children will experience a developmental delay, and 10% won't outgrow that developmental delay. So when I have a parent with this gut feeling, 99% of the time, they're right. And so that's why I wrote My Baby Compass, because it gives a parent a written document that confirms that gut feeling.
So in a way, you can help the parent with some signs and symptoms that are more factual based to say, your gut feeling is telling you the right thing. From an intuitive perspective, you realize something's not right.
Right.
But you are able to put the ABCs behind their gut feeling so that they can realize that, yes, their gut feeling is correct.
Correct.
What else, like if there are some specifics, what would be the parents' concerns? Like, for example, would it be that their child is not looking straight at them when they're speaking to them? What are those early signs?
Okay, and you know what? You brought one up, and most parents don't even realize that. All parents worry about is my child going to be smart? And they don't know those little warning signs. Eye contact. Why is eye contact important? We want to share information. I want to socially connect to you, okay? And then responding to sound. When you're behind him and calling his name, does he turn to look at you? All right? And then, do they like to be hugged? Do they like to be touched? Do they take a toy and play with it appropriately and use it creatively? Or do they use it in a fashion that's not normal? Now, of course, in the beginning, they're going to take the toy, bang it, touch it with their mouth, because a baby learns with their 5 senses. Not on an iPad where they push the button, and that's cause effect, but they don't get the full sensory information. And there's something called sensory integration disorders. Maybe it's because they didn't have that sensory information at a young age.
So what happens a little bit later? Let's say now the child is age 2 to 4, 2 to 5. What do you most commonly find as issues that the parents bring to your attention?
Okay, it's called speech and language delayed. In order to have a speech delay, they have to have a 25% deficit. What does that mean? Okay, if they should be using 4 words, they're only using 3. Now, do you realize at the age of 2, a child should understand 200 words and be using at least 50? So that can give you a marker. If that child is not really meeting that, okay, or they're not playing appropriately with their toys, like trying to take blocks and build with them. Instead, you're seeing repetitive movements, all right? if they're not interacting and socially giving you speech. Now, a lot of people say, my child was talking and all of a sudden he stopped. But was it meaningful speech? Children go through a little period of time we call echolalia. They imitate everything they hear. And to a parent, that will sound like speech. But was it really speech? And see, the echolalia will stop because it doesn't reinforce anything.
Right.
Speech is control. And once a child learns that they can control through speech, they will increase it. If they don't know they have that control, or they don't want to socially react to a situation, they don't increase it.
How about, for example, I know many parents are teaching their little ones sign language before they can even speak. What's your sense around that?
I'll give you the facts on sign language. I reinforce sign language because, number one, it requires parent interaction, doesn't it?
Yes.
And we all use gestures. If I do this, okay, if I do this, you know what it means.
Yeah.
But that's not really sign language. However, signs with a parent and a child, and they don't have to be perfect, because just like their speech, it isn't perfect. If you start with the situation just more, that's putting your hands together like this. The child has a visual cue to the word. They're not just hearing more, more, more. So you're using two senses.
Associations. There's more of an opportunity to integrate all the senses
Right.
that you were referring
Right.
before.
And actually, they think that may increase cognitive flexibility, which makes more neurons fire. All right? So
It's like speaking more than one language.
Correct. Everybody is on this, big thing of, oh, he's got to learn another language to be cognitively, flexible. Fixed. He's going to be smarter by this. Okay. Think about it. If you look at a glass of water, all right, and you call it water, that requires, there's one word describing that water, isn't it? But if I say cold water, okay, or clean cold water, we've now expanded 3 words to describe the same thing. And that's what a foreign language does. Agua, water, 2 words. So cognitive flexibility doesn't mean your baby has to learn a foreign language. It doesn't mean they have to learn, sign language. But if this will increase the interaction of a parent and a child, it's a win-win situation.
What suggestions do you have for parents who have to deal with more than one language? Maybe their heritage is Hispanic, so they want to make sure that they speak Spanish to their kids so that they don't lose their language. Maybe one parent is Hispanic and let's say the other parent is French or Chinese. So they want to speak both languages, but we're in the States, so they want to also make sure that the child learns English. What's your suggestion for people who may be trying to make sure that their kids are multilingual? Is there any special suggestion that you found along your way as a speech pathologist?
Yes, I have. The first thing I want to put aside for no parent to fear is bilingualism does not cause a speech and language delay. Okay, number one. However, what they may see is the child confusing the 2 languages, or they're slower at developing more vocabulary, but what we found by the age of 3, they generally catch up. And by the age of 7, when they're in the school system, they will have sorted out the vocabulary and the grammar so that they can all speak okay. So what I suggest is if your child you want to make sure they have an easy time in school, if they can be exposed to 20 hours a week of standard American English. So if you have one person that speaks English in the home, one that speaks their other language, by the time they reach school age, they will be secure with that.
Oh, wonderful. Let's see the child grow a little bit. What are the most common delays or problems, challenges that you find when the child is anywhere from, let's say, 7 to 12?
Okay, from 7 to 12. By 7.5, 8 at the latest, they should have developed all what we call their articulation ability. That means they should be saying their sounds correctly, okay? There may be something called a frontal cliff, where they're saying their S's like this, or a lateral lisp, where they're saying their S's like this, okay? So you may have some articulation issues. Because they're speech pathologists in the school systems, you rarely see people now with articulation errors. So we need to make sure that articulation is normal. The most important thing, that their vocabulary and grammar is within normal limits. We have found that if their vocabulary is delayed, they don't have as many words as they should, or they're not putting the words correctly together, it will affect their reading ability. And they also need to have a large background experience. I have worked with families where children have not even been in a grocery store. Okay? So to understand that concept, and parents need to know, this is the big myth. They think, my child has to know all his colors, all his letters, and numbers before he goes to school. That's memorization. I have said to children, give me 2 blocks. And they go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't have the concept of 2, but they've memorized all the numbers. So it's real important that parents also have concepts in a child's ability.